and I tried to move north of the Chicago River because I felt like that would be a centrally located. It's only a mile.
Where
and a
was
half.
your old club? Was it in
South Loop, so right below Congress, 1,000
Is that a black
South
neighborhood?
Wabash. Well, that was a sort of transitioning neighborhood when I went in there.
Yeah.
Now it's not. I mean, it's a totally gentrified
Right.
neighborhood now, but at the time it was.
Right.
So then when I made this move, that's when I recognized how segregated Chicago was. I didn't know that until I did that. I honestly didn't know. I knew there was a South and a West.
Right.
But I didn't know the intensity of the North versus South, and
so you were sort of naive in that, like Chicago's it's a balanced town.
Sure.
You know.
Yeah, no. I mean, listen. I mean, if you're a black person, you know you're gonna meet some resistance. I already know that.
Right, got that. But this was not the city that you thought that was in.
It was. Well, I knew it was here, but I'm saying the intensity of it was beyond what I had.
Well, like what happened?
As soon as I got there, they said, "Well, you're from the South Side."
Yeah.
Which means something. General area.
Business community.
Yeah, business community.
Right.
Now, well, what's this guy going to do?
Right.
So it's sort of like, well, I figure I'll get that resistance just right in general.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, well, here's who I am. This is what I've done. This is what I'm doing. This is what I'm planning on doing.
Right.
We don't really want that. Well, you don't want what? Yeah. There was 2 comedy clubs within a half-a-mile radius of here. Improv was here. Funny Firm was here. I don't know if you remember, but they were right around the corner from each other.
Yeah.
So we're going to do some of the same things. Well, that's when that sort of thing raises its head and says, well, if you're black and you own a bakery, you own a black bakery.
Yeah.
You don't just own a bakery.
Right.
You see what I mean? So
Yeah.
so it's like, okay, that's going to mean X, Y, Z, and you're not even supposed to be.
So in their minds, they're like, well, then we're going to have lines of black people.
Right. And all black people are the same.
Sure, in their minds.
So it's like Ali is the same as Bernie. You know what I mean? It's like, wait a
But
second.
even with the pitch that you just want to open a comedy club.
Right.
And you could show that to them on paper.
Sure.
They didn't trust you.
Right. They didn't think, they didn't think I was capable of doing that. Now, mind you, we had ran for 8 years without one incident. None. Not inside the club, not outside. That's unprecedented in a comedy club. But, I mean, we were that aggressive about, because we know one incident.
In a black club.
You could be out of business because you're only getting one chance at this. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
and that's okay.
So you were vigilant.
Absolutely. We had to be.
But how did that manifest itself?
At our club?
Yeah.
So we had to be, obviously we had security. We had people who, we didn't tolerate heckling. We had rules, regulations. This is how we're going to operate inside and outside. Because if there was a broken bottle in the street, which we had absolutely nothing to do with, we would get blamed for that broken bottle being out there. So we had to clean the street for 1 block. From when we left at the end of the night, we examined the whole street so that
because you knew that so you were always conscious of the fact that if something goes down in a 1 mile radius of a black-owned business, the whole community is going to get blamed.
You need to be thinking about it. You need to be conscious of that. You do.
Yeah.
And that's just the way it is.
Sure. So now, what was the fight? How long did the fight go on, or was that the end of it?
No, yeah. It went on for, was it close to 2 years by the time it all ended? And by the end, I was out of time. Time, money, energy.
And they made you jump through hoops for no reason?
Yeah, they keep it going. It's a little bit different in Chicago now, but at that point, anybody could protest your license, and they keep dragging it on. It's really a bizarre situation.
Did you have to try to align yourself with the people in local government and do all that?
Yes, you have to do that. So some community members were for me, some were against.
In your community or here in the
community I was moving to. So, you had to fight that whole battle.
But at some point, did you realize they're just dragging this on?
Oh yeah, I knew that all the way.
Yeah.
So, but then it gets to a point where you say, well, even if I opened, this is going to be hell.
Right.
Because every single thing I do, I'm going to have to manage it. You know what I mean? Now, that's where the businessman comes in, where I wasn't as good a businessman as I should have been.
Uh-huh.
It might be the moral and social thing to do, but I should have probably stopped a long time ago and started looking for another room.
Just like me, stop the fight and find a middle area.
Forget about it.
And try to pull people to where you built it.
Just go somewhere else.
Right.
Where I could exist and still do what I want to do.
Why
the thing.
Why do you think you didn't do that?
because I was still learning. You know what I mean? I was still learning what it
Were
meant
you
to be an
idealistic? Were you stubborn? Were you,
I think so. I think.
were you fighting a fight that
I was fighting a fight culturally speaking,
Right.
not from a businessman speaking.
Right.
You know what I mean? So
Right.
this business at all costs thing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Rosa Parks said on the bus, I'm going to fight this shit until the very end.
So that's what you got.
That's not the thing to do.
You got to do it once, though, right?
I guess. No, I find myself in those positions still to this day, where it's like, what should I be fighting for? What should I let go? Which one's cultural? Which one's business? It's a juggling act.
Well, that's because I think as somebody who has had experience, you know, in sort of, you know, pursuing, you know, what the freedom of business in this country and just the
Sure.
nature of America, you know, is supposed to be about, but also carrying, you know, the legacy.
Yes.
Of the racial struggle.
Sure.
It's got to be an amazing kind of confusion.
No, it's a really, really delicate balance. And you know what's interesting about it was when Obama's giving a talk in the Rose Garden and the guy interrupted him.
Yeah.
It wasn't a press conference. He was talking.
Yeah.
Like every president does, comes in, says what he's saying, and he's gone.
Yeah.
And the guy just interrupts him.
Yeah.
I mean, just shouts out. Or when he's giving State of the Union and that guy shouts
Liar.
out.
That guy, yeah.
So I go, how does he do it? You know what I mean? Like, he's a master at maintaining that sort of persona and the mentality and the difficulty of doing that, to say, I've never seen that before. But it's like, man, I mean, even the president's got to do it.
Right. So do you, you know, in your mind, in terms of, you know, not just show business, but culturally, in light of your experience, do you think that things are obviously better for individuals?
Sure.
But I mean, you know, in the struggle that you have around cultural versus business and everything else,
Right.
Has there been growth? I mean,
yeah, it is. I always like to say this. Listen, nobody owes me shit. I
Right.
mean, I don't operate like that.
yeah,
I can be successful. I got all the tools.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, we've got all the opportunity.
right.
So I don't hold on to it. It's
So
just
you don't think
it's
that the game is
observation.
fixed?
Well, I think the game's probably fixed.
Yeah.
But I mean,
You can
but
find
yet
your
you
way.
still you can find your way.
Yeah, right,
And
right,
you can
right.
find your niche, and you can find you may
Yeah,
have
yeah,
to work twice as hard. You may have to go through a lot more, you know, more hurdles or whatever the case might be.
Yeah.
But it's still doable.
Yeah.
So that's cool, and I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
I don't hold that, you know, I'm not bitter, angry.
Right.
It's more of an observation.
Right.
That, you know, there should be a level of respect paid to this man.
Right.
For the office that he's holding.
Sure.
So for a minute you go, hey, you know, that guy should, you know, somebody should pull him in the back or something. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it's like, well, you can't do that.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You just
Yeah,
can't.
for the same reason you had to clean up those bottles.
Right. He'd be in a world of trouble if that was to happen. You know, then he'd be angry.
Yeah.
Then he'd be bitter. You know, then he'd be blaming folks for something they had nothing to do. You know, it's a whole chain of
But
things.
there is a different standard of judgment.
Sure, and that's okay.
It's just the way it is.
Yeah, it is, and he still can be successful despite that.